Hi, how you doing? So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to manually add makeup to a portrait. So I'm going to reset everything and walk you through the process. It's quite simple and straightforward, so you should be able to do this in about 10 minutes. So the first thing we want to do is come to our layers panel up here, and we want to come down to the bottom and we want to make and select a gradient map. Then from here, what we want to do is just double click or click on the actual gradient map in the middle there. Come to basics and then select black and white. And then from there, what we want to do is just click in the middle and we want to try and get location 50. So that's halfway. And then from there, we just select color. And then we select the color we want. So this is going to be for the lips. So we're going to be adding lipstick. So obviously you can add whatever color you want. I'm going to go with a dark red, I would say, somewhere pinkish red, somewhere around there. That looks pretty good. So all we need to do is press OK and OK again. So all we're going to do now is just invert this mask. So I'm just going to press Control Command I to invert it. Now I'm going to come over to my brush tool and I'm going to make sure the foreground color is set to black. There we go. I'm going to come up to the top here, select a soft round brush, put this hardness to 0, and I'm going to drop this flow down to about 8%. So the reason why we use this gradient map is because we are basically using from black to white with our color in the middle. So it means that when we paint this on, the highlights and the shadows are going to be taken into consideration. So it's not going to look flat. It's going to look like it was always there. So just pressing the brackets keys to make the brush smaller, and then make sure that the foreground color is on white, and then I'm just going to start painting in. So you can build that up slowly. I'm going to push this flow up just for this tutorial. I'm going to push it up to 65 there. So it's quite high, but usually I would build it up slowly and then get a much better result that way. But for this tutorial, say I'm just going to do this nice and quick for you. So you can see there what's happening with that gradient map is that it's taken into consideration all the dark areas. Can you see these areas here where these shadows naturally occur that are actually on the lips, and the highlights, they're still there. So that's the good thing about a gradient map. That's what it does. It maps out the gradient of the tones basically. So let's just continue painting this in. I will probably get this really wrong because I'm not used to applying makeup. So if I end up making her look like a clown, I apologise. I'm sure you'll be able to do a better job than what I can. So there we go. Let's just make the brush a little bit smaller for these areas here. And I'm just going to give this a little bit more of a defined line at the top there. There we go. That looks pretty good. There's a bit there that I missed. That's it. And again, just trying to give this a little bit more of a defined line. And there we go. So let's have a look at that. That looks pretty awful, but it will do. I'm sure you could do a much better job with the time that you've got. It's not bad, actually. It's not bad at all. So let's just come back, and you can see there's the before and there's the after. So it works really, really well. You can just double click on the gradient here, and all you need to do is just come to the color and you can change it. So you do have a lot of control. So let's just maybe go a little bit darker, because I think with her skin tone that would look better. There we go. So that looks quite good. So we've got more of a magenta going on there. That's quite deep red. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That's acceptable, I think. So that's how you do the lips. So if you want to add any other makeup, then what we want to do is come down to your adjustments down here, and we want to select solid color. So we're adding a solid color adjustment, okay? And we're going to now think about the cheekbones. So blusher, I believe that's what it's called. I might be wrong. So I'm going to select something that's in a pinky tone. So pinky red, I believe that's what's used. So I'm just going to guesstimate about here. That will do. Press OK, because of course you can come back and change this whenever you want. So once you've done that, once you've selected your color that you want to use, then just come to the blending options here, the blending mode, and then we're going to select multiply. Then what we want to do is just right click on the color selected there, select blending options, and then we're going to come down to here where it says underline layer. We're going to hold the Alt or Option key down, click on the white bit here, this white triangle, and we're going to click on this bit here, and then we're going to move this to somewhere that's halfway in the middle, which is about 130, somewhere around there. That looks pretty good. So all we're doing here, we're just splitting this underlying layer of white and just making it a little bit brighter. Press OK, and then come back to our mask here, and we want to invert that. So Control Command I. Again, we've still got the brush tool selected, and we're on white foreground, and the flow is pushed up a little bit high. I am going to bring this down a little bit more because we are doing something different to what we were doing with the gradient map, and then we can start painting in. Now before I do that, what I'm actually going to do with this here, I'm going to duplicate this. So I'm going to duplicate this whole thing. So I'm going to press Control or Command J, and you can see what that's done. That's duplicated it for me. So I'm going to actually name this now. Let me name this bottom one here lips, and then this one I'm going to call this blush, because it's going to be blusher, and then this one is going to be for the eyes. So I'm going to come back to the blush here, click on the mask, which is black, and now I'm going to just bring this flow down a little bit more to around 10%. You might even want to be working between 2 and 10% depending on your image. So let me just try 5% for now. So I'm going to make the brush bigger by pressing the bracket keys, and I'm going to start painting in. Now in fact, in this picture she has got a little bit of blusher on there, so I can see where it needs to go. So I'm just going to try that, see what that looks like. I'm going to come to the eye and just click a before and after, and you can actually see that's not bad. That's not bad. So yeah, so if you do go a little bit heavy, the other way to do that is to, if you want to go back, is to press Control Command Z. That will go back a few steps for you. The other thing would be to bring the flow down to, like say a minute ago, like 2%, around there, and then build it up gradually. You're always better off with anything within Photoshop, stuff like this, is building it up gradually, because you have a lot more control and you can see where things are starting to happen. The other option would be to change the opacity, so you can bring that down, and that will literally change the whole opacity. And I like to do that as well, so I like to have a real low flow and then just bring this opacity down just to give me a little bit more control. And then you can see there what that's done. That's just brightened up her cheeks for us, so that's looking really good. So let's go to the eye. Now what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to go with something a little bit different, I suppose. I think smoky eyes would look quite cool with this, so we could have a like a grey hue to it, I suppose. We could even try a different colour if we wanted, so like a smoky blue pink colour. There we go, let's try that. And again, you can go back and change this, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to make the brush a little bit smaller, and I'm just going to start painting and see what happens. So with this here, this is now telling me, yeah, I need to be a little bit higher. There we go. So we can start to see that that's starting to come through. So I'm going to paint her in the where the makeup would be. And again, I'm probably not applying this correctly, but I'm sure if you've got experience with makeup more than me, then you'll know where this needs to go. If you haven't, then it might be worth researching how this is actually applied. So let's just bring the flow down a little bit more, because I'm just gonna hint the top bit here, but not too much, because I do know that if you do that too much, she'll look like she's got panda eyes. And I also do know from experience that this part's quite important down here, because this is where the light hits this white part here. This is quite an important part, apparently. So there we go. So that looks pretty nice. That looks pretty good. If you do want to take any of this away, then all you need to do is come over to here and select black. You can press X on the keyboard, or just click these arrows, and then you can paint in, and this will start taking it away. So sometimes I like to do that, just have a quick sort of whip over it, And again, we've got the option of changing this opacity as well, so we can really minimize it. You'll find that most of the time in Photoshop, between 80 and 60% is usually where a good range kind of sits. So 80% for me on this, I think, looks quite good and quite natural. That's looking okay, actually. So the other thing that you can do is you can actually merge all these together if you wanted to. So you can actually put them into a group. So you just hold the shift key down, click on the bottom where it says lips there, and press Control or Command G. That's going to group everything together, and you can just call that makeup then if you wanted to. And the good thing is that you can then change the opacity. So if I go to 0, that's it completely out. 100% is where we left it. So again, we can just knock this down a little bit if we want to, just to have a little bit more control. And you can see the before and after there. It's quite subtle. And if you want to go in and make individual changes, you still can do that. You can still go to the lip slit if we want to, and just maybe just tone them down a little bit so they're not as dark. And we can come back to the actual main makeup folder here and again tone that down if we wanted to. So yeah, if we look at that there, so let's just zoom out. You can see that's the before and that's the after. Again, obviously you can go on to do any skin retouching that you want to do, some frequency separation, taking out any blemishes and things like that. You can obviously then go and do that and get a really, really nice result. So that's how you do it. That's how you add makeup to a picture. I hope you've enjoyed that. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.